And he's thumbing around behind him. He grabs a phone. He starts dialing a couple numbers, and I'm livid. He scribbles on a pad. He goes just like this, here, and he holds it out like arm's length, like I'm radioactive, right? Like he just want.
Oh,
He said
goodness.
he says go home, drive yourself home, lay down, and drive yourself to Stanford Hospital that afternoon through Bay Area traffic, and go see this neurologist.
And now your host, Rob and Ashley.
I don't know. I have no idea where I was.
So you didn't even know that you'd played for the Niners?
I don't know, because that whole year and a half it's gone.
Yeah.
I don't know, so my first recollection is I'm getting hospital bills for my last two brain surgeries. And I'd write on it, please bill San Francisco 49ers. And even with my memory, I wrote it so many times, I still remember their address, 711 Nevada Street, Redwood City. I'd get it back from the Niners a week or so later, and this is all they would write. You owe this amount, and circle the total for my last two brain surgeries. Not even a card like, hey, Visk, sorry to hear you're having trouble again. And this was just not even a year and a half after playing for him. And so that started a multi-year legal battle, creditors on me. Now, I'd had knee surgery during the season right before my brain surgery, right? By our team orthopedic surgeon, whose nickname was Dr. D for Dr. Doom, because of the numbers of careers he ended with one surgery.
Wow.
No exaggeration. This man, three of my teammates from 81, just the 81 season alone, successfully sued him for malpractice. He was a butcher. But back then, you had to go to see their doc or you're breaking contract and they can just cut you.
Wow.
So if you wanted to play, you're going to do what the docs say. So Dr.
Do they just
D,
hire the cheapest doctors they can find?
they hired guys that would keep us on. See, when you're on injury reserve, they have to pay you. So it's like, get every freaking play out of them, and then we'll just replace them when they're all busted up. There's thousands of guys looking for our jobs. I was one of them. I would have done anything to make it on a team. And so
Their goal was to keep you on the field.
oh yeah, just keep them going, and then once we're done, we'll just replace them. It's like a worn out tire.
Gosh.
Slap a new one on. And so the knee surgery he did on me, he totally screwed up. I had actually torn my anterior cruciate ligament, but he kept telling me it was a sprain, draining 60, 70 cc's of blood out of it. Coach Walsh finally told him to scope it. And so he got a little butt hurt, I think, when Walsh told him to do something. So they send me in for surgery that day. And instead of scoping it like Walsh told him to do, it was kind of like Bailing said, all right, he wants the surgery, fine. They open me up, take all my cartilage out. So I've been bone on bone since 81. Gosh. But what I had injured, I had torn my anterior cruciate ligament, which he never repaired.
Oh, goodness.
So while I'm battling creditors, now we'll go to 84. While I'm battling creditors, more brain surgeries, arrests, lost truck, I have to have two more surgeries on my knee in 84. The second one, they couldn't repair what they botched. My third one, I had a Gore-Tex ACL transplant, a fake ligament, two big stainless steel molly bolts holding that in. Still in legal battles, trying to get my bills paid.
Yeah.
And finally won my case in 86. And it wasn't until about 2010 that I discovered I was the only NFL player to have won a work comp case till about 2010.
Really?
Only. So I have been in their crosshairs for decades. It's like, hey, Visker's precedent setting, we can't keep losing to them. So when I win my case in 86, they offered me like 35,000 or some ridiculous.
Oh my goodness.
Number. And I told them very politely where to place your 35,000. And I said, I want what every injured employee has earned. I want my past medical. And this is, I could be a janitor at a school. If I was injured, I couldn't go back to work. It's called voc rehab.
Yeah.
They have to retrain you in a field of work. I said, I want what every injured employee has earned. And I don't call myself a player. I was an employee of the 49ers. So I said, I want my past medical paid. I want my future medical left open. And thank you, God, that I did, because I had 6 more brain surgeries after that. And I said, I can no longer function in my capacity as an NFL player. You're obliged by law to retrain me in a field of work where I make, quote unquote, a comparable amount of money. That's voc rehab. I said, all I want to do, I had 4 years of biology that I studied at Colorado. I said, all I want to do is finish my biology degree and I'll be done with you dirtbags. So a big review, and they agree. So in 86, and I'm living in Sacramento. I go back to Sac State University, and I had originally gone to school in Colorado. And so I go back to Sac State, and I had 4 more semesters of chemistry, 2 of physics, 2 of pre-calc, and in one 10-month period, while I'm trying to take some of those courses, I have 5 more emergency brain surgeries, several grand mal seizures. I have a 55-minute grand mal seizure 2 or 3 days post brain surgery number 5, sitting in organic chemistry. Because I'd been in it twice, my brain blew out, dropped out, have another brain surgery, third, I'm not dropping out. So I'm back in class 2 days later. I've got 40 staples in the back of my head.
Oh, goodness.
And I have a monster grand mal seizure. Drop out of school again. Now I've developed dyslexia. I mean, to this day, I have to write down everything in my life all day long. I have hundreds of these things going back. I can tell you what I just talked about on the last podcast. I have about 4 pages there. And so you'll have to excuse me if you see me writing a little bit down, because I will forget things. And so, see, I've already forgot where I was going with this. So
I was going to help you, but I can't. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I finally graduated in 1990. Okay. Yeah. I was 32 years old, became a wildlife biologist, my second dream in life behind playing in the NFL, and worked as a biologist for years. That shunt blew out in December of 93. So I had my 9th brain surgery, went back to work as a biologist, met my first wife, and Stephanie, my oldest daughter, was 2 when I met the 2 of them. And Steph was 4 when we got married. And I was traveling as a biologist. I'd go 10 days on, 4 days off. And so little Steph's dad had left when she was young, and all of a sudden I'm in and out. So, and she was having some trouble. So I ended up teaching high school for 2.5 years to stay home. And I taught biology, chemistry, environmental studies, and algebra to English language learners. I did that for 2.5 years. And then got back into the wildlife stuff. I worked with a company. I was building wetlands and mitigation banks. And then I started my own environmental consulting business. But I was always very vocal about what was going on in the NFL. No one wanted to talk about brain injuries. And my first wife, Christy, always just said, you keep telling everyone you're brain damaged and no one's going to hire you. And I said, I am brain damaged. I said, but I worked my ass off. Mm-hmm. 10 times harder than a lot of people do.
Yeah. I
said, I'm not embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed about my knees and shoulder surgeries and everything else. And so I started getting really vocal. I was always doing articles clear back into the 80s, ESPN, NPR. I was jumping up and down about what the NFL got away with. And then so 2010, my life really took a turn. So that was the year, and I was running my own environmental consulting business, and I was working my last 14 months of work before I went on disability. I averaged 109 hours a week for 14 months. What would take a normal person 50, 60-hour weeks would take me 100 plus. Because my memory and I was running my own business, an environmental consulting business that I launched, right? Wow. And so I'm working late one night, and I'm really close with about a dozen of my old Colorado teammates these guys are amazing, what they've done for me over the years. So I'm working real late one night. One of my buddies sends me this link. Hey, Visk, check out the GQ magazine. The cover's titled The Game Brain, the NFL's cover up brain injuries. Okay, this is 2010. And did you see the movie Concussion on Dr. Bennett O'Malley?
No, I didn't see that.
Okay, so Will Smith played Bennett. Bennett's a close friend of mine now. So
I
this
heard about
article,
that. Yes.
so GQ magazine, they did an article on the first 24 NFL brains. He was a neuropathologist in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And they did it on the first 24 NFL brains that he studied, and 23 had this disease he discovered, chronic traumatic encephalopathy,
Mm-hmm.
CTE. So as I'm reading this article, I went to, first of all, I went to buy it and it was out of print by the time I went to get it. So I pulled it up one night and I printed it out, and I tell people, as you can tell, I don't read GQ magazine, right? So I have this. I still have the exact original copy that I copied in 2010, stapled together, and I'm reading it late that night. It's 11 o'clock, 12. I'm in my office, and I'm reading about these guys I played against, and I'm writing notes in how they died, killed themselves, da da da. And I was livid. I still livid. And I get done reading this thing, and I think I got to find this Omalo. Okay, so this is 2010 or early 11. And so he was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania when the story was written, right? And my office is in Sacramento, California.
Yeah.
So I track him down. I'm telling you, God has been in my life so many times on this journey. And each one of these are like miracles. I mean, literally miracles. So I Google, I find Bennett's cell phone number, right?
Yeah.
He is now the head coroner pathologist for San Joaquin County Sheriff's Department, or a coroner's office. He's in Lodi, California, which is 40 minutes from my office.
Wow.
I call up this number, right?
Yeah.
I get his voicemail. And as soon as I get his voicemail, I know I got the right guy. He has a very strong African accent, right? He says, and Bennett's a close friend of mine now. He's on my advisory panel.
Oh,
We
cool.
presented together at Senate hearings. We presented together on kids' concussion legislation. And so I call this number, and I get this message. This is Dr. Malo. Sorry I missed your call. Please leave a message. And this is how it ended. And remember, God loves you. And I'm like this, okay, this guy isn't going to be swayed by money and politics and ego. And so I leave him this message, and I get all fired. Dr. Malo, my name's George Fisker. Had 9 brain surgeries, but in the NFL. So about 15 minutes, he calls him back. Okay.
Yeah.
He goes, I'd love to meet with you, but I can't tonight. I'm speaking at UC Davis Medical Center. 15 minutes from my office. Again, I go, what time are you doing? I won't be finished till 7:30. I said, I'll see you at 7:35 in the lobby. We go out to dinner that night. It's midnight. We're bouncing stories back and forth, what they did to him, what they did to me in the NFL. And at one point, he looks at me, and Omalo will speak of himself in the third sense. And he says, why do they attack Dr. Omalo? And back then, the NFL only grossed $9 billion. They're up to 19 now.
Wow.
And I said, Bennett, this is America. I said, I can give you 9 billion reasons why. I said, you are their worst nightmare. I said, you're the boogeyman. You're going to cut into their money. He goes, don't they want to know their players are dying? I said, hell no, they don't give a shit.
Nope.
This is hard for him to grasp. I said, Bennett, this is America. People don't give a crap about the human carnage. It's all about making money.
Yep. The dollar.
It was tough for him to understand that. Ever since then, Ben and I, we've been shoulder to shoulder in many fights together, and I love the guy. He's written preface for my book coming out in this month, coming out in a couple
Which
of weeks.
I can't wait to read this book.
Well, it's titled Facing Giants, My 38-Year Battle. And the 3 giants I've had to face were hydrocephalus, the $19 billion NFL when I settled, and the $26.3 billion Travelers Insurance Company.
Wow.
3 giants. They fought me for 38 years. 38.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you're in a documentary coming up?
It'll be coming out, yeah. It's called Beyond the Game. Susan Sember, Silverlight Productions. That'll be coming out in a little while. She's also my publisher for my book. Um, Great gal, does tremendous work. We love working with her. And so, you see, I'll do this. I'll lose my train of thought. I have no idea what I was talking about.
Were
Where
you
was
talking
I?
about Dr. Ball?
Omalo. Bennett
Amal.
Omalo.
Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, that started a very close friendship with us. And then, so that was 2010 or 11. And then my mind I was just battling, trying to stay on top of things. And the doctors kept telling me, you need to go out on disability. And I'd say, I'm not disabled. I just can't remember things. And they'd say, that's a disability, George.
Yeah.
And of course, the anger I had for years of fighting with these guys. And this is how this is how some of these billion-dollar industries make some of their money.
Mm-hmm.
They make it as tough on you as possible to access your earned benefits. I cannot tell you how many times, I've grand mal seizures, right? I've been on seizure meds for 45 years.
Wow.
Every now and then, I'd go in to get my prescription filled. They start to charge me. I go, no, this is work comp. And they'd look, they go, oh, no, you're what do you call your insurance person?
Yeah, your carrier or
Yeah, your claims adjuster. Your
yeah.
claims adjuster
Yeah.
called from Texas and said they're no longer paying anymore. And in the old days, I would call my attorney. It would be weeks to get back on my meds.
The medication needed immediately.
So anyone listening to this out here, if the big companies play this game, this is how I learned. It's all about the money.
Mm-hmm.
So I have my claims adjuster on speed dial. The last several times they did this, Rite Aid, right? I'm standing in line. Now they want me to pay. I step out of line. I said, one moment, please. Speed dial. My claims adjuster in Dallas, Texas. Yeah. Hey, Paul, this is George Visker. I never met the guy, right? This is George Visker, the old brain damaged 49er out here in California. I've just been informed by Rite Aid Pharmacy that you and the travelers have now taken over liability on my medical management. So please call the pharmacy and myself and let them know who will be legally liable when I have a grand mal seizure driving home and crash and kill somebody. Thank you very much. Please call and let us know who is now responsible for my. I get home, pharmacy, hey, they just approved your meds. Oh, really? But you have to learn to play their games.
Yeah.
Because most people, 99% of people go, oh, they're not paying for my prescription anymore, and they pay. Think about if they did that to just 10% of their patients. They'd make hundreds of millions of dollars savings in not paying for drugs for people.
Right.
One of their MOs, their business models. So I learned to play the game, and all I wanted was my life back. Just pay my medical bills.
Yeah.
So while all that's going on, I think I can't remember if I told you that I had 2 more knee surgeries fixing what Bailey had butchered. So I've got creditors on me. So, I'm fighting to just keep my head above water.
Yeah.
84, I had a second knee surgery. Our orthopedic surgeon, the guy was a butcher and sued by 3 of my teammates that year. So I had 2 more surgeries on my knee in 84, a Gore-Tex ACL transplant with a couple of bolts. Yeah.
Wow.
While I'm battling creditors,
Jeez.
Finally settled my case in 86. They offered me $35,000. And I told them very politely where to shove it. And I said, I want what every injured employee has earned. And I don't call myself a player. I was an employee. I said, I want my past medical paid. I want my future medical left open. And I can no longer function as an employee of the 49ers due to my injury. So you are obliged by law to retrain me in a field of work where I make, quote unquote, a comparable amount of money. It's called vocational rehab.
Yeah.
If I was pushing a broom somewhere and couldn't push a broom anymore, they would have to retrain me where I would make. And I said, all I want, I had 4 years of biology. I was studying fisheries biology at Colorado. I said, all I want to do is finish my degree and I'll be done with you creeps.
Yeah.
So they agreed. And I went back to school. Now I'm living in Sacramento. So I went to Sacramento State University, 86. And I knew I had 4 more semesters of chemistry, 2 of physics left, 2 of pre-calc, all these killer courses, right?
Yeah.
I go back 86 in one 10-month period. I have 5 more emergency brain surgeries, several grand mal seizures, a 55-minute grand mal seizure, sitting organic chemistry for the 3rd time. The first time I'm in it, my shunt blew out, brain surgery dropped out. Came back in it, brain surgery dropped out. Came back in it again. Had brain surgery on Saturday. I leave the hospital like 26 hours post-surgery. Monday, I'm back in class with 40 staples in the back of my head. I'm not going to drop out and have like a 50-something minute grand mal seizure, monster seizure. Drop out of school. Now I've developed dyslexia. I literally have to write in my notebook where I park my truck.
I added that to the new monthly 100,420 list.
I don't know what that is. Sorry about that. And so I'd have to write down where I park my truck, or I would spend an hour or two after walking up and down every aisle on every side of the university looking for my vehicle.
Been
And I
there.
just kept my head down. I ground it out 40, 60, 70 hours a week, sometimes in the library. I learned that if I went home with my brain injury, I can't filter things out.
Yep.
If I went home and tried to study, I would be out of the corner of my eye. I'm looking at a magazine on the counter I want to read. I'm thinking about food in the refrigerator, So I would go to the library at school and find a little cubicle at the very back far corner where no one would walk by me. And I couldn't even have a pencil on my little, if I had a pen right here while I'm doing these big equations, and my mind's thinking, oh, the pen's blue, there's no cap on it,
Yeah.
And so I've taught myself and found ways to just power through stuff. I graduated in 1990 at age 32. I had 172 units for a
Wow.
Bachelor of Science in Biology. I am 6 units away from a 2nd degree in Social Studies, and somehow I'm 10 units away from a 3rd degree in Psychology. Don't ask me how. So I started work as my second passion. I'm a wildlife biologist.
Hey.
And then I did that for years. And then I met my first wife, Christy, and my daughter, Stephanie, was 2 when I met the 2 of them.
Wow.
And Steph was 4 when we got married. And then we had 2 more kids. We had Amanda, and then we had Jack. And then, a lot of stuff went on. I started my own environmental consulting business, and then as things were going, my mind was just, I was working harder and harder and harder to just get stuff done. And finally, in like, gosh darn, I'm losing track, but it got to where, we ended up losing the house in like 2010 or 11.
I'm so sorry.
Chris and the kids moved an hour. We were up in a little Grass Valley, a little mountain town. So they moved an hour down to Sacramento and lived in Grandma's 2-bedroom house.
Wow.
So Jack slept on an airbed for probably 6, 7 years.
Goodness.
Christy slept on the couch. The 2 girls, they commuted an hour up to school where Christy was teaching at elementary school. So they'd leave the house at 5:30 in the morning, and Jack and Amanda both played sports, basketball. So sometimes it'd be 9 o'clock at night. I'd be waiting for them. They'd pull in, the kids are asleep. I'd help carry them into Grandma's, and I'd be on the lawn at 5:30 in the morning with hot chocolate and and they're just wiped out. And that was sometimes my only connection with my kids all week.
Wow.
And my kids went through hell, and they are the greatest people you will ever meet in your life. They battled through this stuff. Amanda gave the commencement speech at Sac State 2 years ago when she graduated. Jack's in his last semester. He's getting a degree in environmental engineering. Dean's list, already hired a few months ago. He's already working 25 to 30 hours a week at an environmental consulting business, environmental engineering business, engineering.
That's awesome.
So he's rocking and rolling. My daughter, Stephanie, my oldest, she had her own esthetician business going. Christy, my ex, and Jennifer, we've all kind of healed up. They FaceTime And Christy tells Jennifer, I'm so thankful that my kids have another mom. And Jennifer thanks Christy for having the greatest kids that she could ever have.
I love
I mean, it's
this.
just amazing, but it was a battle. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. So all this stuff's going on. 2014, this woman calls me. There was a Bay Area paper did a story on me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it talked about how I have to write everything down. And so this woman, Sue Reeb, who is another one of the many angels that have come into my life. I mean, angels. Her niece or daughter reads the story. So Sue founded a business, well, up in Southern California. It's called BRAIN. It stands for Brain Rehabilitation and Injury Network, because
Oh,
she has a brain damaged daughter that kept falling through the cracks, and no one. So she and her husband Jerry's a preacher at a big church down there. They said, we're doing ourselves, and they put together this group. They've got doctors. It's amazing. You pay nothing.
wow.
They generate money all year long, and they treat people coming in. And so Sue, her daughter or niece tells her about, you got to contact this guy. So she reads that I can't remember things. So she says, she calls me. Hi George, my name's Sue Reeb. And she's, oh, hey, nice, how you doing, Sue? Nice to meet you. And we talk, we hang out. Next day she calls me. Hi George, my name is Sue Reeb. Hey, nice to meet you. Next day, third day, she calls. Hi, George, this is Sue Reeb. Hey, nice. Good to meet you, Sue. The fourth day she calls me in a row. She said, I finally went, okay, I know who you are. And then she called me. She said, one more day, just to make sure that it was imprinted. So then we can fast forward. Now Sue and I she connects me with this work comp attorney, Chris Asvar. Another one of my angels, man. And so Chris, young guy, sole source, you know, he wants to look into my work comp, and this is all he does. And he has settled some of the biggest work comp claims in freaking U.S. history. I mean, California by far. And so I said, hey, I settled my case in '86, but I left the medical. So they battled us for like a year and a half through legalese because he wanted to reopen the case. But it was never officially closed. Of course, Travelers did not want he battles. Now, I've never had a day of treatment. I have brain surgery. I walk out. I go back a week later, staples removed, and then, hey, we'll see you next time your shunt goes out. On your own. I always found ways to just battle through stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So Chris now is going to try to get me into treatment, the first treatment I've ever had in my life. And I'm in my late 50s now.
Wow.
So we get into another knockdown, drag out. A doctor writes a prescription for me for 30 days of in-house treatment at Center for Neuroskills down in Bakersfield, which was like 4 or 5 hours from my kids, my family. Right? But by now I've been sleeping on a floor at the hyperbaric clinic in Sacramento for 2.5 years. I spent a year in my brother's trailer in his backyard. I slept in my truck, living on $1,760 a month in disability. My kids are suffering. I can't even afford to get my son basketball shoes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then my kids never asked for anything, ever, and I'm just watching my family suffer, and so Chris battles. He kicks the Travelers right in the freaking teeth, and he gets me in for 30 days of treatment. After 30 days, big review with all the docs and everyone. They go, man, Mr. Vischer's like in his late 50s, and he's showing improvement. We recommend 90 days. Another year and a half of legal battle. We had to win another hearing. 6 months later, an appeal. 5 months later, another appeal. They take me to the freaking California Court of Appeals. Unheard of in a work comp case.
Wow.
We beat them again. 17, 18 months later, I get back in for 90 days. Okay. Now, and they're really getting butthurt now because it's costing them $1,500 a day to have me in these places. After 90 days, a big review, all the docs go over my records. Like, oh my gosh, Mr. Vischer's still showing great improvement. We recommend a year. Here comes a nuclear battle. Chris Asvar kicks him in the teeth in another hearing, another appeal, another California Court of Appeals. I do a year. Okay. So while I'm at Center for Mural Skills in Emeryville, I join it. By now, Christy and I are divorced after many, many years. I hadn't lived with my family since 2010 when we lost the house, you know, and I join a gym. I meet Jennifer, my absolute partner in life, and we've been married now for 3 years. She's the most amazing person I've ever met.
Awesome.
As is Christy, my first wife. They're now there, and I was really estranged from the whole family for years. Kids were afraid of me. I had anger issues. And man, everybody's healed up now. Jennifer and Christy FaceTime each other. Christy, my ex, thanks her for being the greatest second mom to our kids. Jennifer thanks Christy for bringing the 3 greatest kids into the world that she can be a mom to. I mean, everyone's healed. My family went through hell, and my kids are so tough and resilient.
Yeah.
We have a saying in my family. It's called "Visitor Strong." I said, you know what, guys, we just whatever it takes. I mean, just whatever it takes. That's always been my motto since Pee Wee Pop Warner. Hey, whatever it takes, let's get it done. I'll do it. And so my kids have been amazing. So we battled through all that stuff, and then 2019, we finally go to a mediation here. Now, back up a couple years prior. Now, let's go clear back to 2010 when this GQ magazine, all the stuff's coming out. I get this phone call from an attorney in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a guy by the name of Jason Lukasevich. Okay, another one of my angels. So Jason called me. He was friends with Dr. O'Malley, and he saw what the NFL was doing to O'Malley. Jason was just a soldier attorney for this big firm back, young guy. So he talked them into letting him look into a potential lawsuit against the NFL. Okay. So 2010 or 11, whatever, I was still working. I get this call. He introduces himself. We're looking to a potential, class action suit against the NFL on brain injury. I said, well, I'm your freaking guy to talk to.
Yeah.
So he and an attorney from Motley Rice fly out from Pittsburgh. Now, Motley Rice is one of the largest firms in the world. They settle big tobacco for billions, right?
Wow.
The firm Jason works for wasn't anywhere big enough to take on the NFL. So they law firms will team up.
Yeah.
So these 2 guys fly to San Francisco. They drive 2.5 hours up to my office in Sacramento, meet with me 3 or 4 hours, and leave. I'm thinking, man, that's weird. So next day, Jason Lukasevich calls me back. He says, George, this is Jason. He goes, I want to tell you what we have going on. He says, we're looking to a potential suit. He says, but the firm we work for, Persky White, he goes, we don't have the guns to take on the NFL, so we're trying to team up. He says, and this is what Jason told me. And I love Jason to death, man. He's another one of my warrior brothers. He says, even if these guys don't team up with us, he says, I'm going to find a firm. He goes, this is the right thing to do. I said, Jason, I will be swinging my sword and fighting with you to the end.